The hotel lobby was glowing with Christmas lights, warm music playing in the background. Families hugged each other, kids ran around with candy canes, and everything looked perfect, except for me. I dragged my small suitcase behind me, looking around for my parents. When I finally spotted them near the check-in desk, relief washed over me. But as I got closer, something felt off. My mom and dad were standing there with my sister, Vanessa, and all three of them had room keys in their hand. "Finally, you made it," Vanessa smirked, tossing her long hair back. She waved her key card in the air. "Hope you're not expecting much, because only real family gets rooms." Her voice was loud enough that a couple of guests nearby turned their heads. I froze. My dad shifted uncomfortably, while my mom gave a weak laugh, as if Vanessa had just told a silly joke. But no one corrected her. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where's my room?" There was a long pause. My dad rubbed the back of his neck. We only booked the suite for the three of us. We thought you could figure something out. Maybe you could share with Vanessa." Vanessa let out a mocking laugh. "Oh, no way. I'm not sharing my bed. She can sleep on the floor if she wants." My chest tightened, heat rushing to my face. "So you didn't even book me a bed?" Mom sighed, looking everywhere but at me. "It wasn't on purpose, Maya. You know how expensive things are. We thought you'd understand." Understand? They had known about this trip for months. I had been so excited, thinking maybe, just maybe, this Christmas would finally be different. I had imagined us laughing together, finally feeling like I belonged. And now I was standing in a crowded hotel lobby, being told I didn't even deserve a place to sleep. Vanessa smirked again, leaning in close. "Guess you'll have to crash in the lobby. But hey, at least there's free Wi-Fi." Everyone laughed except me. My parents didn't stop her. They didn't even look ashamed. My throat ached, but I swallowed the lump forming there. I forced a smile, even though my eyes burned. "Yeah," I whispered, gripping my suitcase handle tighter. "Thanks for making me feel so welcome." But inside, something cracked. This wasn't just about a room. It was about every single time they had chosen her over me, every birthday, every holiday, every moment where I was treated like an outsider in my own family. And standing there in the middle of that lobby, I realized I was never going to be their first. Growing up, I always felt like the shadow in my own family. Vanessa, my older sister, was the star, the golden daughter everyone admired. She had this way of walking into a room and immediately soaking up all the attention, while I blended into the background. People used to say we were lucky to have her, like she was the crown jewel of the family. No one ever said that about me. Birthdays told the story clearly. When Vanessa turned 10, she got a brand new pink bicycle with a basket in front, shiny streamers hanging off the handlebar. I remember her riding it up and down the street while neighbors clapped. I was 8 then, standing on the sidewalk with a plastic doll my parents had grabbed last minute. They didn't even bother to wrap it. On my birthdays, there was no big celebration, no surprise. Sometimes it was just a small cake from the supermarket and a gift card, while Vanessa got cameras, jewelry, even trips. Everyone said, "Oh, she's the eldest, it's different." But the truth was, it was always different for me, always less. When I got older, I tried to win them over in other ways. I worked hard in school, stayed up late studying while Vanessa barely tried. She'd brag about skipping homework, yet my parents defended her with excuses like, "She's just creative, not academic." When I came home with good grades, they barely looked at my report card. When she came home with average ones, they clapped as if she had achieved the impossible. By the time I was 16, I started working part-time jobs after school, waitressing, tutoring kids, even babysitting, to help with bills. I knew things weren't easy at home, and I wanted to contribute. I paid for my own clothes, my school supplies, even helped cover groceries once or twice. But whenever I mentioned it, my parents brushed it off, saying, "You're just doing what you're supposed to." Meanwhile, Vanessa never worked a single day. She always had the newest phone, the latest shoes, vacations with her friends, all funded by our parents. They called it supporting her dreams. Now, in the present, the gap between us feels even wider. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment that leaks when it rains. I juggle bills every month, sometimes eating instant noodles for days just to stretch my paycheck. My car is old and breaks down at the worst time. Still, I manage to stand on my own feet. Vanessa, on the other hand, still lives at home, still jobless, and still spoiled. She drives a car my dad bought for her, has her laundry done by my mom, and spends most of her time shopping or posting on social media about her amazing life. And yet, no matter how different our lives are, I still catch myself hoping for their approval. Some nights, I wonder if maybe I worked harder, spoke softer, or dressed differently, they might finally see me. That's why this Christmas trip had meant so much to me. I had thought maybe this would be the year we'd finally sit together, laugh as a family, and feel whole. I had imagined us drinking hot cocoa, exchanging gifts, and maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't feel like the outsider anymore. But the moment I found out they hadn't even booked me a room, it hit me like a punch. All the hope I had been carrying felt foolish. I had saved money just to join this trip, telling myself it was worth it. I told myself that no matter how awkward things had been in the past, this time would be different. But standing in that hotel lobby, with Vanessa's laughter ringing in my ears and my parents staying silent, I realized nothing had changed. The truth is, I was never invisible to them by accident. It wasn't that they forgot, it was that they chose. And they never chose me. The hotel's dining room was filled with holiday decorations, the smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon filling the air. Long tables were covered with food, and everyone sat together, cousins laughing, uncles raising their glasses, and a soft hum of Christmas music playing in the background. From the outside, it looked like the perfect family dinner. But for me, every bite tasted bitter. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, pushing food around my plate. Vanessa was at the center of attention, as always, telling stories about her shopping trips and her plans for the future. Everyone nodded, smiling at her, even when her stories didn't make much sense. My parents listened with pride in their eyes, like she was the only person in the room worth hearing. Then Vanessa's eyes shifted toward me. She smirked, tilting her head just enough for everyone to notice. "You know," she said loudly, "it's kind of funny Maya's even here. This trip was supposed to be for family only." The table went quiet for a second. A few cousins looked down, uncomfortable, but no one spoke. My chest tightened as all eyes turned toward me. I tried to laugh it off. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm. Vanessa shrugged, stabbing a piece of turkey with her fork. "It just feels out of place. You don't really fit in with us, Maya. You never have." She grinned, clearly enjoying herself. I glanced at my parents, hoping they would finally step in. My mom gave a nervous chuckle and sipped her wine. My dad shifted in his chair, muttering, "Vanessa," but there was no real warning in his tone. They weren't going to stop her. A burning sensation rose in my chest. "So you're just going to let her talk to me like that?" I asked, my voice cracking. Before anyone could answer, one of my cousins, Ethan, spoke without thinking. "Well, it's kind of true, isn't it? Uncle Joe told us the trip was originally just for you three. Maya wasn't supposed to come." The words hit me like ice water. I froze. "What?" Ethan's eyes widened as he realized what he had said. I didn't mean." But it was too late. My gaze snapped to my parents. Mom looked away. Dad cleared his throat. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, satisfied. "So it's true," I whispered. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. "You planned this entire trip for yourselves, and I was just added at the last minute?" No one answered. The silence was louder than any confession. Tears stung my eyes, and I felt the weight of every Christmas, every birthday, every moment of being pushed aside pressing down on me once. My throat ached as I stood up from the table, the chair scraping against the floor. "I can't believe you," I said, my voice breaking. "I thought maybe this year would be different. I thought I actually mattered to you." No one stopped me. No one said my name. My parents just sat there, staring at their plates, while Vanessa smirked like she had finally won. I walked out of the dining room with my heart pounding in my chest. As soon as I turned the corner, the tears spilled over, blinding me. I pressed my hand against the cold wall, gasping for air. In that moment, the truth hit me harder than ever before. I wasn't just left out of the room arrangements. I wasn't just ignored at the table. I was never meant to belong here at all. And no matter how much I had tried, no matter how hard I worked or how much I gave, my family had already decided where I stood, on the outside. That night after the dinner, I sat in the lobby with my small suitcase by my side, staring at the glowing Christmas tree in the corner. Families walked past me, laughing and carrying gift bags, while I sat alone in one of the cold leather chairs. I tried to hold myself together, but the truth kept replaying in my head. I was never supposed to be here. I was just an afterthought, a mistake added to a trip that was never meant to include me. The next morning, my eyes were swollen from crying, but I forced myself to smile when I saw my family walking through the lobby. Vanessa was dressed in a new outfit, holding shopping bags, while Mom and Dad trailed behind her with coffees in their. They looked like a perfect little trio. For a second, I wondered if anyone even noticed I hadn't gone back to the room last night. "Wow," Vanessa said when she saw me curled up on the lobby couch. "Still here? Did you actually sleep down here?" Her voice was sharp, but her smile was sweet enough to fool anyone who didn't know her. "Yes," I said quietly, since there wasn't a room for me. Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. "Maya, we told you we didn't mean it like that. Stop making everything into a problem. We're here to have a good Christmas." A problem. That was what I was to them. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Just a problem. The days that followed only made things worse. At breakfast, Vanessa would slide her plate in front of Dad and say, "Cut this for me, Daddy," like she was still a little girl. He did it without hesitation. When I asked for help carrying my bag up the stairs, he looked at me and said, "You're strong enough, Maya, you'll be fine." When relatives joined us for meals, Vanessa made sure to remind everyone that I wasn't part of the original. "Maya just decided to tag along," she'd say with a laugh, as if I had invited myself. People chuckled politely, not realizing how deep the knife was going in. One afternoon, I tried to speak to my parents alone. We were sitting on a bench outside the hotel, snow falling softly around us. I gathered all my courage and asked, "Why do you treat me this way? Why do you always choose her over me?" My mom rubbed her hands together for warmth. "Maya, that's not fair. We love you both." "No, you don't," I said, my voice trembling. "You book trips without me. You give her everything, and I get leftovers. Do you know how that feels? To watch your own parents look right through you." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Vanessa just needs more from us. She's not as independent as you. You're stronger. You can handle things on your own." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them strength wasn't something I chose. It was something I was forced into because they never supported me. Instead, I whispered, "Needing you shouldn't be the only way to deserve your love." But they didn't answer. They just sat there in silence, staring at the snow. The more I tried to reach out, the more isolated I became. Vanessa noticed every crack in me, and she used it. She'd whisper little things when no one was listening. "You'll never be enough for them. Stop trying." Or, "They only keep you around so people don't think they abandoned you completely." It worked. Slowly, the other relatives began to pull away from me too. At first, they smiled politely, but after Vanessa's quiet comments, they stopped asking me to join their games or their late-night hot cocoa gathering. I was left out of photos, out of conversations, out of everything. One night, I sat in the lobby again, staring at my reflection in the shiny glass doors. I barely recognized myself, shoulders slumped, eyes tired, lips pressed into a thin line to keep from shaking. I took out my notebook, the one I carried everywhere, and started writing. Page after page, I poured my heart out. I wrote about the birthday parties where I sat in the corner, the times I helped pay the bills, the times I waited for praise that never came. I wrote about the hotel lobby, the cold leather chairs, the empty bed that had never been meant for me. And I asked myself the question that had haunted me for years. Why wasn't I enough? The answer came like a whisper, because they never wanted to see you. That truth burned, but it also lit something inside me. For so long, I thought if I just tried harder, if I just kept giving, they would finally see me. But maybe they never would. Maybe it wasn't about me not being enough. Maybe it was about them refusing to love me for who I was. The next day at breakfast, I watched Vanessa drape herself over my mom's shoulder, laughing loudly as if she were performing for the entire room. My dad nodded proudly, hanging on her every word. No one looked at me. No one asked how I was doing. For the first time, instead of feeling invisible, I felt something different. Anger. A slow, burning anger that spread through my chest. I was done begging. I was done shrinking myself to fit into a space they clearly never saved for me. But even as I tried to hold myself together, I could feel the storm building inside me. Vanessa wasn't finished. She would keep pushing. She would keep digging until she broke me. Christmas dinner was supposed to be the highlight of the trip. The dining hall glowed with golden lights, the table filled with roasted turkey, glazed ham, mashed potatoes, and shining glasses of wine. Everyone was laughing, clinking glasses, and sharing stories. But I sat quietly, my hands folded in my lap, my heart heavy. I had been holding in my anger for days, biting my tongue while Vanessa picked at me, while my parents looked away. But that night, everything broke. It started when Vanessa raised her glass. She stood up, smiling like she was about to give the most heartfelt toast of the evening. "Here's to family," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "To the people who matter most. To the ones who actually belong." Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp and cruel. The room filled with polite laughter. Some people glanced at me, uncomfortable, but no one said a word. I felt the heat rise in my chest. My fork clattered onto the plate as I pushed back my chair. "Stop," I said, my voice shaking but loud. The laughter died instantly. "Enough, Vanessa." She tilted her head, pretending to look innocent. "What? I was just giving a toast." "No," I snapped. "You were mocking me, like you always do. Every single day of this trip, every year of my life, you've made sure I knew I wasn't wanted. And what hurts more is that Mom and Dad let you." My parents stiffened, their smiles fading. Mom reached for her wine glass, avoiding my eyes. Dad cleared his throat but said nothing. "You think I don't notice?" My voice cracked, but I pushed through the tears burning in my eyes. All those birthdays when she got gifts worth hundreds of dollars, and I got a last-minute card. All the times I came home with straight A's and you barely blinked, but when Vanessa scraped by with average grades, you acted like she had won an award. The table went silent. My words cut through the air sharper than any knife. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go. Poor Maya, the victim. Always whining, always complaining. Maybe if you weren't so boring, they'd actually like you." That was it. The anger I had held inside for years erupted. Boring? Vanessa, I was the one who worked 2 jobs in high school just to help keep the lights on in our house. Do you remember that, Mom? Dad? Or did you forget because you were too busy buying Vanessa another pair of designer shoes? Gasps rippled around the table. My parents shifted uncomfortably. Vanessa's smirk wavered. You want to know the truth? I continued, my voice trembling with rage. While you were out shopping and partying, I was paying part of the mortgage. Yes, the mortgage. When Dad lost hours at work and Mom's paycheck wasn't enough, I used my savings from waitressing to cover the bills. And not once did either of you thank me. You acted like it never happened, like I never mattered. Murmurs filled the room. Relatives stared at my parents, their faces a mix of shock and judgment. My father's jaw clenched and Mom's face turned pale. Vanessa's mouth fell open, her confidence cracking. That's not true, Vanessa said weakly, but her voice lacked its usual sharpness. It is true, I shot back. Every time you called me invisible, every time you treated me like an outsider, I was the one holding everything together. I was the one carrying weight you didn't even know existed. And you? I turned to my parents, my voice breaking. You chose to ignore me. You chose her, again and again, while I broke myself trying to prove I was worthy of your love. The silence that followed was unbearable. No one moved. No one breathed. Finally, Dad spoke, his voice low. Maya, we didn't realize. Don't, I said, holding up my hand. Don't you dare say you didn't realize. You knew. You just didn't care. Tears blurred my vision as I stepped back from the table. My whole body was trembling, but for the first time, I felt powerful. I had spoken the truth, and they couldn't take it back, couldn't bury it under silence. Vanessa stood up, her face red, her hands shaking. You're lying. You're making me look bad in front of everyone. I met her eyes, my voice calm now, steady. No, Vanessa. You made yourself look bad. I just stopped covering for you. The room was dead quiet. Relatives who once laughed at Vanessa's jokes now looked at her with something else in their eyes, disgust. Sympathy for me. Judgment for her. I grabbed my bag from beside my chair. My hand still shook, but I didn't care. Enjoy the rest of your perfect Christmas, I said, my voice low but strong. I'm done being the forgotten one. And with that, I walked out of the dining hall, my footsteps echoing against the marble floor. Behind me, I could hear whispers, shifting chairs, the start of chaos. But I didn't turn back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one shrinking in silence. I was the one who had finally spoken, and nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't go back to the lobby that night. Instead, I used the little money I had saved and booked a room at a budget motel down the street. It wasn't fancy, just a small bed, a thin blanket, and a flickering lamp, but it was mine. For the first time on that trip, I closed a door behind me and felt safe. No mocking voice, no silent parents pretending not to hear. Just me, breathing in a space that belonged only to me. Lying on that bed, I replayed everything that had happened at dinner. My chest still ached from the words I had thrown across the table, but at the same time, I felt lighter. The secret I had carried for years, that I was the one who had helped keep our family afloat, was finally out. Whether they wanted to face it or not, the truth was now in the open. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages. Some relatives reached out quietly, telling me they admired my courage. A few even apologized for laughing along with Vanessa in the past, admitting they had never realized how deep the favoritism went. Their words didn't erase the pain, but for once I felt seen. Vanessa, on the other hand, was furious. She sent me a string of angry texts, accusing me of ruining Christmas and embarrassing her. I didn't reply. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. Her anger wasn't my burden anymore. My parents didn't message me right away, but when they finally did, it was short. We didn't know you felt this way. We need time to process. I stared at those words for a long time, wondering if they were an excuse or the start of something real. Either way, I didn't rush to answer. I had spent my whole life waiting for their approval. I wasn't going to beg for it anymore. That evening, I walked through the snowy streets alone, lights twinkling in the windows around me. Families were gathered inside, laughing, singing, living the picture-perfect holiday I had once dreamed of. But instead of feeling jealous, I felt a strange calm. I realized I didn't need their version of family to feel whole. I could create my own. I could build a life where love wasn't conditional, where I didn't have to fight for scraps of attention. When I returned to my motel room, I opened my notebook again. This time, instead of pouring out pain, I wrote down promises to myself. Promises that I would stop chasing people who refused to choose me. Promises that I would invest in friendships, in love, in people who saw my worth without being forced to. Promises that I would never again let myself feel small just to make someone else comfortable. For the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully. The trip ended without me seeing much of my parents or Vanessa again. They left in their rented car, their laughter echoing faintly as they drove away. I watched from a distance, my suitcase by my side. But instead of feeling abandoned, I felt free. I knew healing wouldn't happen overnight. There would be days I still longed for what I never had. But I also knew I was strong enough to keep moving forward, strong enough to build something better for myself. Walking toward the bus stop, I whispered the words I had always needed to hear. You matter, Maya. You always have. And for once, I believed it. When I got back home, the apartment felt quieter than ever. The walls were thin, the furniture secondhand, and the heater groaned with every turn, but it was mine. I set my small suitcase down and stood in the middle of the room, letting the silence wrap around me. For the first time in days, I didn't feel heavy. I didn't feel like baggage. It was New Year's Eve a few nights later. Outside, fireworks popped in the distance. Neighbors laughed and shouted in the hallway. I sat on my worn-out couch, a simple glass of juice in my hand, and looked at the small tree I had decorated myself. The lights flickered softly, uneven but beautiful, and I realized something important. This was peace. I thought about the family I had left behind in that hotel, their laughter hollow, their love always one-sided. For so long, I had begged to sit at their table, begged to be seen, begged to be chosen. But I didn't need to anymore. Family isn't just the people you share blood with. Family is the people who choose you, who make space for you, who see your worth without you having to scream for it. I didn't have that yet, but I would. I would build it piece by piece, with friends who cared, with people who stayed, with love that was real. I raised my glass toward the glowing lights of my little tree and whispered, here's to me. To the girl who survived being invisible. To the woman who won't stay invisible anymore. As the clock struck midnight, I felt the past year close behind me. And for the first time in my life, the future felt wide open, waiting for me to claim it. Got it. Here's the same 70-word outro without emojis. Hey besties, thanks for watching till the end. If Maya's story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and drop a comment. I love hearing your thoughts. And of course, hit subscribe for more juicy family dramas and emotional stories. Next up, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked the seat right beside them. See you there. Bye.